Okay, to kick off my Captain America Batman fighting month, I decided what better than to go with Bane versus Crossbones. If you kind of know who Bane is, not Bane from the movie, talking the previous one, the non-Nolanverse one. Bane was essentially like born and raised in a prison, where he became the top guy in the prison, and also survived an experiment with a drug called Venom. Think about like super steroids, to the point that when he was on Venom, he could pretty easily move like a couple of tons. Bane is primarily known for being the one who actually broke Batman's back. He's also been shown to be able to break bones while not on Venom. And in recent history, he's become more of kind of like an anti-hero and less of like a stone-cold killer. So that's what you got in Bane. You got a person who is very, very much one of the most dangerous enemies Batman has. Other side, you have Crossbones. Crossbones is essentially your ridiculous soldier of fortune who has worked for the Red Skull, helped train other people at the Taskmaster School. Expert in hand-to-hand combat, marksmanship, phenomenal pilot, and at the same time can easily go toe-to-toe with Captain America. This was one of those fights where I went, okay, I can't go with Terrigen Mist infused Crossbones because he shoots like a flaming disc from his head. And I was like, that would be kind of hard to fight somebody up close who occasionally can ignite their head on fire, but he's not immune to the fire. At the same time, I was like, well, what if I do Bane with the Venom? Well, Bane with the Venom, he's going to have enhanced strength, speed, and vulnerability, durability. And right there, he's pretty much got the fight. He's got 4 out of 9 parts. Essentially, he needs one more little speck, and that's it. He's going to dominate him. So these two guys are ridiculously evenly matched. Now, I know in the comment section I'll probably get, no way, so-and-so stronger than this and stronger than this, and that's part of the reason behind these things is my opinion, and I could be wrong. So let's start off first with intelligence. You're looking at a mastermind who is about on the same level as Batman versus a guy who's kind of been a mercenary his whole life. I have to give the intelligence edge to Bane. Bane is able to go, mind game for mind game with Batman. There are very, very few people who can say they can actually do that. So intelligence, fighting ability. This one is like 9.9 to 10. You're comparing somebody who very easily goes toe-to-toe with Captain America. Very easily goes toe-to-toe with lots of other people in Crossbones. Versus Bane. Bane is kind of like number 4 or 5 when it comes to the DC universe of being, hand-to-hand combat. He's beating people like Batman, Lady Shiva, and some of the people like Judo Master, who essentially has spent his whole life practicing one craft. Bane is essentially self-taught, because he grew up in a prison. Most of his things are kind of really bizarre, because he's mastered multiple martial arts and thrown them all together into one. Versus Crossbones, who, while a fantastic fighter, is a little bit less refined. On the flip side, though, Crossbones has absolutely no problem using stilettos and other sort of, small bladed implements. And with Bane trying to not kill people unless it's completely and totally warranted and necessary. Like when he went to hunt after, I think, Our Man, because the pill Miraculo became a new version of Venom and helped destroy his country. So yeah, he can be that sort of driven, but at the same time, when it comes to fighting, the guy who has no problem killing and fighting a bit dirtier might have a slight edge on the person who's got a lot of knowledge and experience. However, I have to give this one to Bane. Anybody who's able to go toe-to-toe with somebody like Batman, that puts them a smidge beyond Crossbones, like a smidge. I'm talking if Crossbones is here, Bane is here. like just barely above him. Primarily because he takes on people who are ridiculously well skilled at the martial arts. So if we got 2 for Bane, 2 for Bane, 0 for Crossbow. Okay, now we're going to go look at strength. Again, this is a non-venomed Bane. Strength, I think I'll give a strength advantage to Bane. You know, while Crossbones is somebody who is a soldier of fortune, so he's in phenomenal shape. Bane likes to get his hands as dirty as possible. You know, Crossbones will, at a distance, will wipe out a group of people. Bane would much rather prefer to get up close and to really prove himself as a much more superior fighter. So I'm going to give that one, of course, to Bane. Invulnerability. Essentially, they're both humans, but I do know that Crossbones has a more penchant to wear body armor than Bane does. So you're looking at the potential of having some body armor to help absorb some damage versus a guy who prefers not to. Prefers more to rely on his overall skills and abilities. So I'll give the invulnerability edge to Crossbones. So right now you've got intelligence, fighting, and strength versus invulnerability. Durability, technically the sad thing with this is they're both peak human condition. And they're not going to recover any bit faster than the other one. It's going to come down to, you know, who essentially isn't going to tire first. And that's going to go to Bane. But again, this is a very, very slight edge to Bane. Speed. These two guys are essentially the exact same speed. However, knowing that Bane is someone who's a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier, where Crossbones isn't as much, I will give Crossbones a slight advantage in the speed category. Because, you know, he's not going to be as big and he wears fairly light body armor versus a guy who's relatively large and muscular. So I'm going to give him a slight edge in that. Energy. Again, since they're not really actually using things, it comes down to who potentially is a better marksman. Well, for a better marksman, it comes down to one person. That's Crossbones. Crossbones is a phenomenal marksman. Okay, so now we're down to the versatility and the X factor. As you can tell, these two guys are pretty well evenly matched. Overall versatility. Knowing that you've got a master strategist on one side who can escape bonds and is only below like Batman and Mr. Miracle in the ability to escape bonds, and is an absolutely phenomenal tactician, versus a guy who is more or less kind of told what to do. So Bane gets it in versatility. And in X Factor, you know, I have to give the X Factor advantage probably to Crossbones. Knowing that Crossbones has spent so much time working with other super criminals and super villains, it wouldn't surprise if he doesn't have some sort of bizarre trick that the Red Skull may have taught him. So in a fight between Crossbones and Bane, you know, Bane is going to edge out Crossbones. I picture the fight primarily being Bane using his hands, wearing the Venom contraption because he wears it to remind himself of, you know, that is a potential weakness, fighting with a bit more in honor, versus a guy who's probably going to at first try to shoot guns at him from a distance, you know, make him close that gap. You know, he's going to try to use his body armor, he's going to try to use, you know, every single trick that he's got to try to keep this fight going as long as he can, as well as probably using stilettos, maybe trying to use a small knife. You know, he's going to try to fight dirty. He's going to try to do whatever he can to, you know, look at a guy and goes, okay, this guy's bigger and stronger. So's Cap. You know, try to work my distance a little bit, try to learn from him. And Bane's probably looking and go, okay, this guy's using guns. He appears to be in good shape. If I can close the distance, I can take him. So out of those two, I definitely do picture Bane being victorious against Crossbones. In probably a ridiculous fight that wherever they're at is going to probably be relatively destroyed.